So I'm going to talk about earthquakes. So Mexico in September of 2017 had two earthquakes in succession of each other um, that really correlate to what we talked about in lab number 5, which was all about like earthquakes and volcanoes and tectonic plates. Um, so in September, two separate earthquakes struck hundreds of miles apart in Mexico. So even though they were hundreds of miles apart, they had a lot of similarities for like the occurrence. So number one was that the temblor that was caused by these earthquakes was caused rattling in the capital. So one of the earthquakes was like further away from the capital, but it still ended up reaching the capital because of like the strength of the earthquake. They were both caused by a rupture in fault lines, more specifically in the North American plate. Um, and that's like right like where Mexico lies. And then again, like both these like happening within a couple days of each or a couple weeks of each other is not unusual because of the area in which Mexico sits. Like it's on the edge of the North American plate and the Costco plate. And so because of that, like there's a lot of like movement of the plates and earthquakes are caused very easily. So the first earthquake of that month was on September 8th, and it was a 7.1 magnitude, and it caused a tsunami warning. The epicenter of that was further away from the capital than the one that occurred on September 19th, which was very close to Mexico City. It was found to be an 8.1 magnitude, and it struck at a depth of 33 miles. Both of these earthquakes were considered shallow, but that's actually the most dangerous type of earthquakes because it affects like the top layer of the earth, and that's like what causes the plate like buildings to collapse. Um, Both of these earthquakes were caused by rupture of fault lines, and it was the fault line rupture can cause a chain effect on nearby fault lines, which is why both of them were caused within a month of each other. Mexico itself is very susceptible to earthquakes. It has a soft and wet ground that amplifies shaking, and because of this, like the movement of the plates can get amplified and like spread further inland, which is what happened with both of these and why they both hit Mexico City. And both of the quakes occurred in the Pacific Ring of Fire. That's super significant because 80% of earthquakes occur within this Pacific Ring of Fire, and so Mexico is very susceptible to earthquakes because of that. And then finally, these earthquakes had a huge impact on Mexico because they were happening one after the other. There was huge devastation. Hundreds of lives were lost. Power was lost. Infrastructure was damaged, and buildings collapsed, all because they didn't have enough time to like rebuild from the first one in order to prepare for the next earthquake.